Hey everybody, today I'm going to be introducing you to Imwah. This is the newest release from Angro Games. It'll be available at the Fall 2024 Tokyo Game Market. Imwah is an abstract strategy game for 2 players. It combines elements of trick-taking with chess-like movements. The game has already been set up, but I'm going to go through and show you how. The first thing you do is you take the tiles, you shuffle them, rotate them, flip them, and then you deal 4 of them into a square at the center of the table. The remaining 2 just get discarded to the side. They won't be used this game. You then shuffle the base cards, and you give 1 to each player. The base card will determine your player color, as well as show you what your pre-set up ability is. The white player will take the leader pawn. The black player will take a rotate action. They will be able to rotate the board 90 or 180 degrees in either direction. This ability is optional, so you don't have to do it if you don't want. You then place your base card here like this, and as suggested by the name, this represents your base. So the white player's base is here, and the black player's base is there. You're then going to take pawns of your color, and you're going to place 6 of them in the 6 spaces closest to you. These spaces are referred to as your starting line. The remaining pawn you have goes to the side. These pawns are considered captured. Finally, you're going to give each player their corresponding deck of cards. Both of these decks are exactly the same. The only difference is the player color. For example purposes, I will use the white cards. So the cards are double-sided, meaning you can use either the backs or the fronts. The backs are all identical, but the fronts are different. The fronts are called movement cards, and the backs are called turtle cards. The movement cards have 3 suits on them. There's squares, triangles, and circles. In addition to the suits, there are ranks. So ranks 1, 2, 3 of each of the 3 suits, and then 2 special cards, ranks 0 and 4. Suited cards have 2 different types of movement on them. There's the primary movement, and then there's the consolation movement. I'll go over the types of movement. They're very similar to chess. For example, this moves similar to a rook. They can move 1 or 2 spaces in an orthogonal direction. And this moves sort of like a bishop, so 1 or 2 spaces in a diagonal direction. The 3s move like a knight in an L shape. It just jumps to the destination. Any movements besides this are 1 space at a time. This is an exception where it jumps. The consolation movement moves similar to a king, 1 space in any direction. Then we have the special cards. These cards have all 3 suits, so they are considered to be circle, square, and triangle simultaneously. The rank 0 movement is called a redeploy. You would be able to take a captured pawn and place it to any empty space on your own starting line. The trump card moves sort of like a queen, 1 or 2 spaces in any direction. This icon means that you take the leader pawn into your possession. Turtle cards count as all 3 suits, but they have no movement to them. That means you will not get to move if you play a turtle card. However, you do get to acquire the leader pawn. In the rare circumstance that somebody plays trump card and another player plays a turtle card, the trump card always takes precedence. So in this case, the white player takes it to their possession. Brief overview of the structure of the game. We're going to play 2 rounds of 11 tricks. The primary way to win will be to move 2 of your pawns onto your opponent's base. If you do that, the game ends immediately with you winning. Alternatively, you can capture all your opponent's pawns. If you do that, the game ends immediately with you winning. Finally, if there's no winner at the end of 2 rounds, we'll go to a scoring. You will get 5 points for every pawn on your opponent's base, and then 1 point for every pawn remaining on the board. In addition, you will get 1 bonus point for every pawn on your opponent's starting line. Obviously, this is not a very likely final scenario, but in this case, you would get 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The person who has the most points will win the game, and if there's a tie, the player who has the leader pawn at that moment will be the winner. So let's go through how a trick would work. Starting with the player who has the leader pawn, we'll go ahead and play any card from their hand. So let's say they play this 3 of squares. Then the non-leader will play a card. You can play any card you want with 1 exception. You can never play the same card that your opponent played. So in this case, because the white player played a 3 of squares, I cannot play this 3 of squares as a movement card. You don't have to play a card of the same suit, but if you do, you'll get to do the primary movement. So there is some benefit to it. If I choose to play a turtle card, I can play any card, ignoring the front of the card. So I could even play a 3 of squares as the turtle card. Let's say I do choose to follow suit, and I play the 1 of squares. Now we've both played a card. We're going to determine who won the trick. First, we're gonna see, did anyone play a trump card? If yes, that player wins the trick and they get the leader pawn. If not, did any player play a turtle card? If so, that player gets the pawn and wins the trick. If nobody played a turtle or a trump card, the person who played the highest card of the lead suit, or in this case, square was the lead suit, they will win the trick. So in this case, the 3 is higher than 1, therefore they win. That player that wins is going to take the leader pawn, put it in front of them. They are now the new leader. Starting with the leader, players will take a movement. The way that movement works is you're going to take a look at the suit. In this case, the suit is square. What this means is I can only move pawns that are currently located on square spaces. So I can't move this one or this one because they are on triangle spaces. Let's say I decide to move this one and I can move it with the primary movement, so I'll do something like that. And then the next player will take a movement. Because they played a card matching the suit of the leader, they use the primary movement. So let's say they decide to do this. These cards get discarded. All information is open, so I should be able to see what cards you've played and vice versa. Let's do another example trick. This player plays a 1 of triangles. Now this player plays, remember they cannot play the same card, so they cannot play the 1 of triangles. They play a 2 of triangles. Take a look at 1. Nobody played a trump, nobody played a turtle, so let's see who played the highest card. So this player played a 2, this player played a 1, so the 2 will take it. That goes there. Starting with the leader, we're going to take a move. So let's say this guy moves 2 spaces diagonally, so they go 1, 2. And then the second player, because they played a card matching the leader's suit, they get to do the primary movement, so they can move one of these pawns here from the triangle space. So let's say they go 1, 2. So let's do one more example trick. The black player plays this 3 of circles. The white player can play any card besides the 3 of circles, but they are kind of in a predicament here. They currently don't have any pawns located on circle spaces. So if they were to play a circle card, they would forfeit their movement. If you don't have a pawn located on the space of a suit you played, you forfeit your movement. So it wouldn't be a great idea to play these cards. They have some options. They could play a special card, or they could play a card of a different suit and use the consolation movement, or they could play a turtle card. Let's say they do that instead. So they play the blue 3 as a turtle card. We take a look. The turtle card will win the trick. They take this leader pawn, but because the turtle does not have a movement, they do not take any movement this turn. And then we move on to the next player. This player played a 3 of blue, so they can move from the blue space. And remember, because the turtle card is all 3 suits, this is technically the same suit as the leader's card, so they get to do the primary movement. Say they do this, they come back here to capture that player's pawn. This pawn goes to here, and that ends that trick. This player discards it face up, and same thing for this player, and then we move on to the next trick. Rules that might come up: you can always move through your own pawns, but you can never move through opponent pawns. So let's say the black player plays this 2 of square, so they can move this pawn, for example, and they want to move it 2 spaces, 1, 2, no problem. However, if this was an opponent pawn, they would need to stop their movement there. So they would go 1, capture that opponent piece, and stop their movement. The last thing, moving to your opponent's base. You cannot move directly to the opponent base. You actually need to move to the opponent's starting line first. So let's say this player is here and they play this card. They can't move 1, 2 to the base. Instead, they move 1 and stop there. Then on a future turn, they can play a square card to move them to the base. The base is considered adjacent to all starting line spaces, so it doesn't matter which movement you use, it will always reach the base if you choose to move in that direction. When your hand is empty, we will do a short upkeep phase and then move on to a second round.
During the upkeep phase, we're going to determine who is currently trailing.
We're going to determine this by first checking to see who has pawns in their opponent base. So right now, the black player has 1 pawn in the white base, and the white player has 1 pawn in the black base. So there is no winner in that regard. We now check to see who has the most pawns on the board. The black player has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the white player has 1, 2, 3, 4. So in this case, the black player has more pawns on the board, therefore the white player will receive the benefit. The benefit is they get to take 1 captured pawn and redeploy them. So similar to this special card here, they will choose a captured pawn and place it onto any space on their starting line that is empty. Then we start the next round. You gather your cards and start with this player. You play through the second round. If there's no winner, you go to the scoring. Otherwise, the game ends as soon as one person gets 2 pawns to their opponent's base or they capture all their opponent's pawns. And that's the game. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below or send me an email at support@anglergames.com.